Hello watch enthusiasts. Now today I'd like to talk about my pen collection. And I appreciate that's rather different to my usual watch collection reviews. But I find that since my channel covers a lot of high-end goods, I thought it would be appropriate to cover a certain different type, so fountain pens. Because I write primarily with fountain pens, I find that they write in a very different way to a biro, for example, and I appreciate that difference in feeling. And I find that it's easier to write for long periods of time with a fountain pen with traditional flowing ink. Equally, I think that one values writing a lot more when writing with a pen that is of high quality, and I think that's irrespective of price. But a high quality or good quality pen really does make writing a pleasure, and makes one enjoy writing a letter or any other sort of correspondence. And equally, one can enjoy different types of ink, different colours, and so on. So it adds a certain personal experience to writing, which one doesn't usually have with a biro or a felt tip or any other pen that one buys and then simply disposes of after it's run out. Now, just as with watches, we have sort of beta watches, or watches which we don't value quite as much, and therefore are willing to throw around a little bit more. My pen for this purpose is my Nomos fountain pens. This is a Nomos branded pen, which you might have seen my Nomos merchandise review a while back. And I think this combines a very elegant 20s and 30s design at a very reasonable price. This pen was less than £20. This is an £18.50 pen, and it comes with this black plastic casing. Now, there are several colours available. There's a white, sort of a beige, beigey pink, which is quite attractive, really, and the piano black. I went with the piano black simply because I find it the most versatile. Now, for £50, they do now also make a metal cased pen, which is quite nice as well. So it's exactly the same design, just aluminium, I believe. So the actual lid is this large section here, and unscrews like so to reveal the rest of the pen, and it can then be placed on the end. So again, the rest of the barrel of the pen is also plastic like the rest, and that's my only complaint with this pen. It's not particularly high quality plastic, but for £18.50, what can one say? Now, the nib, if I can get it into focus, just to show you, is gold, sort of plated, I think, and decorated with some writing and so on. This is a medium nib. Now, within the pen, it'll take one cartridge. I have this Giardin ink, as you can see, which I'll get onto in a little bit, but I personally find to be very good quality, and fit and suits many pens. So that screws up like so, and this pen does make a very nice pen that one doesn't have to worry about too much, because as it's not very expensive, one doesn't really worry about bumping it or scratching it, whereas one does with my more expensive pens. So in general, this Nomos is comfortable to write with. Unposted, sorry, I've got a bit of a cough. It's far too short to write with. It slips into the hand while writing, which is a pain. But posted, it writes extremely nicely with that extra thickness to the lid, giving a very comfortable fit in the hand, making it sit very comfortably between the thumb and the index. And equally, it is made by a good, reputable brand. So they are well made and will last. I've also found the ink feed on these pens to be very good, and they write very easily and well. So the next pen up in my collection, I suppose, is this Cartier Boheme, or rather Montblanc Boheme, sorry. So the next pen up in my collection is this Montblanc Boheme Bleu. So it's the blue version, blue jeweled version of the Montblanc Boheme. Now the Boheme is a pocket pen from Montblanc, and it's substantially smaller than their Meisterstück line, for example. I mean, look, the size difference is immense between these two pens, but I'll get onto that other one in a second. Now, it has this piano black finish on what they call precious resin, which is effectively plastic. It's their type of high-quality plastic. It's very high-grade plastic, but one can't get past the fact that it is plastic. But I don't mind that. It gives a piano black finish, which I find very elegant, and suits the pen extremely well. Now, it has quite an interesting feature, which is that when one unscrews the lid, which is unscrewed like so, and then places it at the back of the pen, you'll notice there is in fact no nib sticking out, no nib protruding. So in order to push the nib out, one has to turn the back of the pen, like so, and then the nib pops out. Now, the nib is actually very well decorated. It's an 18-karat gold nib, 18-karat white gold nib. It's very well decorated with the particular type of nib, the size, which is medium on this pen, and with 18 karat at the bottom there, with 750 below it, just to demonstrate the amount of gold actually in that. And I think 18 karat is a good blend between gold content and strength, so that's nice to see. And it is of course white gold, so it's not too flashy. Equally, these rings around here read Montblanc Boheme, as you can see. And they're again not gold like other Montblanc pens, making the whole pen more understated and far more discreet. Now we have this synthetic sapphire stone in the clip here, and I must say I like it. I think it suits the whole pen, and it gives the whole pen a particular look, which I appreciate. And as you'll see, my Cartier equally has a blue sort of synthetic jewel in the top, which is also a nice feature and matches this pen nicely. So as you see, this has the usual Montblanc badge on the top of the cap, which of course is their trademark, their symbol. And I do like it. I must say I do like it. I think it's a very elegant logo, and far more elegant than that of other companies. So as you can see, when I screw it back in, the lid, so rather the nib retracts, then one can place the lid back on. Now I will point out that to prevent one from breaking the nib if you leave it out and then try and screw the lid in, there is, I'm not sure if you can quite see it in there. There it is. There's a little rod which will stab into a little part of the nib that's flattened and designed to catch it and stops you from putting the lid on. Now the way of replacing the cartridge in this pen is really interesting and one of my favourite features about this pen. So most pens would unscrew, but this one flips open like so to reveal the cartridge, and then one screws the other way to opening the pen, and then the cartridge pops out like this, and it's still attached. I like to point out the entire the actual nib has moved up the barrel now, because that entire mechanical section with the ink feed and so on is actually moving as one within the barrel, making the whole pen have this very interesting design and I think a very interesting design and one which interests people. While a lot of other pens sort of look bland, this one really they really have gone the extra mile. Now all the finishing on this pen even is steel, with that piano black precious resin, which is actually red if you put it up to the light, but under all normal circumstances looks jet black. Now next I have this Montblanc Meisterstück Solitaire, and this pen is an interesting one. It's a sterling silver pen. It's quite an old pen now. It was owned by, actually, my pens, several of them were owned by relatives before me, and given to me as gifts. And and I must say, that in that way they do mean a lot to me. But this pen is quite an interesting one because it has that that two-tone look, which looks very good with my Longines Conquest, my Heritage Conquest. But that's a whole other story, and it suits that very well. Of course, on the tip of the cap, we see again the Montblanc insignia. Of course, this is bent round the cap rather than just being flat on the top like the other Montblancs which I have. Equally, we have these gold. I believe the pin is gold pressed, while the rings around here are gold. Now, the body of the case is 925 sterling silver, as it says here. There we are, AG 925. Now, the lid pops off, unlike most Montblanc pens where it unscrews, to reveal the nib. And in fact, this feed and grip is the resin, the precious resin they make. Now, the nib is, there we are, is an 18-karat gold nib, very similar to that in the Boheme. So it writes in a very similar way, apart from the shape of the pen itself. And you'll notice that the gold plating has come off the ring around the base of the nib, and it's in rather a poor state. I need to have that repaired. But actually, the reason for that is that Montblanc ink has been left on it too long. It's actually eaten away the plating. And that's going to be one of the things I explain, is that I really don't like Montblanc ink. I find it's very corrosive. It's among the most corrosive and unpleasant inks if you were, for example, to ingest it. It's very very toxic and hazardous. So I prefer more. I appreciate I have this Montblanc pot here, but that's for the other Meisterstück. But I do find I prefer Giardin. Now, they don't sponsor my videos or anything. They're a massive company. But I prefer their ink, and I also like Monteverde ink. They also make, which I think I have. Here's the packaging of a box of cartridge, which I actually have in the Boheme. I find they make very good, somewhat innocuous ink, which doesn't damage things, unlike Montblanc ink, which I really don't like. Now, again, that's a medium nib, so it writes the same as the Boheme. Now, unposted, this pen is actually very comfortable. It writes nicely. It's very well weighted, well balanced. So it's a very pleasant pen to use. Equally, posted, it's very pleasant as well because it anchors itself between your index and your thumb to give a very sort of comfortable writing experience. Now, being silver, of course, you do have to polish it from time to time to remove the tarnishing on the surface. You can see there's some here, some marks at the base of the cap, and equally here, where I think it's been gripped to open it over the years, and so has ended up reacting. It's not necessarily oxide. There's a lot of silver sulfide on there. Now, next, I shall open this box just to demonstrate. Now, this is my Cartier Diabolo Happy Birthday edition, so it's the anniversary version of the Diabolo. So this is a pen that matches the Diabolo watch I have, which needs a battery change, actually. And this is platinum pressed, so it's platinum finished. So it's all platinum surfaced over steel. Obviously, a solid platinum pen would be ridiculously expensive, so there's no way I would, even if I had the money, want to buy one of those, because I just worry about having a pen like that too much. That said, though, I find the finish of this very lustrous and very nice to look at, and has so far been extremely durable. There aren't any nicks in this pen so far at all, and it's been owned for a while now. Now, again, at the top we have this typical sort of Cartier shape with these various curves and lines, making the whole thing a very fluid and soft design, more playful, I think, than the Montblanc pens. That's why I love this pen so much. Again, it has the Cartier logo on the surface of it, and as you can see, it has these little rings around it. Yeah, there we are, all around, and these sit proud of those. Then we have these rings here and here with Cartier, with 3 Cartier logos written on there, polished end, a little jewel on the end of here. which isn't a precious jewel. It's just a synthetic jewel, but nonetheless very nice. Now the pen is a lot heavy. You'll notice next to the Solitaire, for example, which is a comparable pen in terms of features, it's substantially thicker and much heavier and thicker metal. So I'd say this is a more robust pen, but obviously I wouldn't take it into any sort of testing circumstances. But it's a much heavier pen, though it writes beautifully. So the lid unscrews from the case of the rest of the pen. And then we see this piano black finish. This is again a plastic finish, but it's very high quality. It's just as good as the Montblanc finish, I find. It has these two rings again, and an 18-karat gold Cartier nib. As you can see, it's decorated in a more minimalistic way to the rest of the pen. It has 18-karat 750 at the bottom there, with the Cartier logo just halfway up, making a very beautiful and extremely simple and elegant pen. I think that's the general theme with my pens. They're all very simple, I think. Simple and have a certain elegance in their simplicity. Obviously, some more bright pens can be very appealing. I don't doubt it, but or deny it. I simply find that with my pens, I like to keep them versatile, so they suit my watch, because I like to match them up with my watch, for example. Now this then unscrews, and it's worthwhile saying the threading is metal, not plastic, so it does keep it in good shape. So again, we have a simple cartridge here, and another one here. And actually, I forgot to say it's exactly the same setup on the Montblanc Solitaire over there. And then unposted, this pen is already definitely large enough. It's very comfortable to write with. Protrudes away off the gap between the thumb and the index, so making it already very well balanced and slightly back heavy, but that's quite nice to maneuver the pen. Posted, I find it a bit much. It's a bit too heavy at the rear and makes it a bit cumbersome for writing, I find. So I think because of the weight, it's difficult to write with it posted, though I think it's perfectly fine to write with it posted, but for long periods of time I prefer to write with it unposted. So I find that more comfortable in terms of the writing experience with this pen. I think it's an altogether wonderful pen, and a very pleasant one to write with, despite the cap being a tad on the heavy side. Now, this is I suppose, the jewel of my collection, and it's a 75th anniversary Meisterstück, and it's the large Meisterstück. So this doesn't take cartridges. This actually has an integrated reservoir, so the whole barrel of the pen fills with ink. When you, I won't turn this too far, but the back end of the pen actually unscrews and screws. So you unscrew it completely, dip it into your ink, and then screw it back up, and it fills with ink. Then, of course, you let a few drops back out of the nib just to clear it. But it's actually all integrated into the pen. So as you see, it has the same fixtures in terms of the pin as the Solitaire. Then up here we have 75 years of passion and soul written on here, which is again an homage to the original Meisterstück, which is really the jewel of the Montblanc collection. It has a little diamond here in the O of the passion, which is a nice feature, nice touch. And it has curving over the top the Montblanc insignia, which lines up perfectly, as you can see, with the pin, which is something they don't tend to take too much attention with, or pay too much attention. As you can see, my Solitaire doesn't quite line up, slightly off, and then the Boheme is slightly off, and the Solitaire is completely off. But that doesn't bother me. But it's nice to see that they've taken the time and attention with this pen. Now, this ring round here reads Meisterstück number 149, which does mean masterpiece in German, and Montblanc. And then we have another gold ring here, and the fixtures are gold on this resin, this precious resin body, which means it's not actually very heavy. It's lighter than the Cartier, despite being substantially larger. Now, when one unscrews the lid, one is presented with an enormous nib. The nib is truly gigantic. I'll show it to you next to the Solitaire nib, which is a similar size to the Boheme and the Diabolo, and as you can see, it dwarfs the nib. It's an immense 18-karat gold nib, and I believe most Meisterstücks are 14-karat gold in terms of their nibs because of the size of them. It's more cost-effective, and I think people would rather just have a slightly less expensive 14-karat gold nib than the whole shebang, if you will, with the 18-karat. And this has a two-tone gold nib. As you can see, it's running a corn poppy red ink at the moment, which is sort of blood red, as you can see. And it says 75 years Meisterstück, medium for the size of the nib. You can go larger than this in terms of the breadth. Then we have decoration all the way up the white gold sections with Montblanc at the bottom, making it a very, very beautiful nib, and one which I must say really does stand out. Now, writing with this pen is very comfortable. It's a light pen. It's a pleasure to write with, really comfortable and nice in the hand. It's just the right length unposted. Posted, it's really quite a showpiece. Now, I don't like showing off with my pens. This pen I tend to use at home, simply because I worry about the pen because it's worth a fair deal. But it's slightly cumbersome like this because of the sheer size of the pen. And I'll show you the pens side by side just to demonstrate. But before that, it may be difficult to see. There are actually streaks. If I catch the light in this, there are streaks in the top of the casing through which you can see the blood red ink. Again, emphasised by the fact that the resin used for this is actually red already. If you shine a light through it. But I must say, this is a beautiful pen, a pleasure to write with, one which I really do love. Now, I'll show them all to you side by side. So, here we have the line-up, if you will. Now, in size, the two largest are, of course, the Cartier and the Meisterstück number 149. And as you can see, so we have the Boheme, the Solitaire, poking out just a little bit longer. There we are. So the Boheme is very much a pocket pen. The Solitaire begins to be a sort of a primary pen. Then we move up to the Cartier, which again makes the Solitaire look a bit small. But the Solitaire has a very elegant and nice size and comfortable size. And then we have the number 149 and the Diabolo, and it's slightly longer than the Diabolo, but substantially thicker. So that is something to consider with these. They're very cumbersome and wouldn't really be something I would write with every day. Okay, so before I finish, I would like to show you the actual writing of all of these pens. So this is on Rhodia paper, which I find to be very high quality. And at the top, you see we have the Nomos with a very thin writing. Sometimes the ink feed doesn't put enough ink onto the paper. That's the only thing I'll say. Whereas one finds with both the Montblanc medium-sized nibs, they both have a very similar writing style, with perhaps a little bit too much ink coming out for my particular liking. But they're very, very close. The Cartier is exactly the way I like a pen. The ink, the nib is slightly narrower than the Montblanc pens. So this is the Boheme, that's the Solitaire, that's the Meisterstück, and this is the Diabolo. So you see a slightly thinner script to the others, and then the big Meisterstück has quite a thick writing, but a very nice flow, very nice feed, and very, very pleasant writing. So I just wanted to show you the differences in the actual writing of these pens. Anyway, in this video I just wanted to go over a different type of accessory to the watch. The watches in my collection, and show a sort of a different aspect of my collection and what I collect. And of course, it makes no sense to own an expensive pen if you, or any sort of pen really, if you don't do very much handwriting. I can understand investing in wristwatches instead, but I do a lot of handwriting, and it really is a pleasure for me, at least, to write a letter to a relative or so on using my pen, and using the ink that I've chosen and so on. I find it has a particular tactile feeling that's similar to, for example, manually winding your watch in the morning. But that's just my feelings. To tell me what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to see more content and videos on my channel, it's always appreciated. Any help is appreciated. So thank you very much for watching. This is Arm on the Watch Guy, over and out.